Okay, so I have with me Bharat and my name is Vivek, and both of us graduated from IIT BHU.
Hello everyone.
Yeah, so I initially worked with Amazon for around 3 years, and Bharat worked with TAR Research. And now we have been a part of Programming Pathshala also throughout, and now we are just trying to help more people get into the top tech companies. Okay, so as the name of this webinar suggests, that we'll be discussing how to ace top tech company interviews, right? And we rolled out a Google form also, and I'm very, very sure that most of you would have asked great questions over there. So we will be picking those questions and answering all of those one by one. But before that, we wanted to tell you that, see, when it comes to interviews, there are different categories of companies, okay? And so what happens is there are different categories of companies, and there are different categories of questions that they ask. So it is very essential for for all of us to know that what is expected where. Okay, so for example, there can be some fintech companies, you might have heard of them, like Tower Research, from where Bharat hails, and JP Morgan or Morgan Stanley or Goldman Sachs, which, apart from asking DS algo questions, also want to assess your quantitative skills, that how good you are at maths, how good you are at puzzle solving, and also one more thing, communication, how well can you communicate. Okay, on the other hand, if there are certain companies like Microsoft or Amazon or B Shaw which are heavily tech based, then all that they care about is how good you are at writing code. Okay, and also when I speak about code, they are not so worried about nitty gritty details of maths that you're using over there. Mostly they are aware about they are worrying about that how clean your code is and how proficient you are with data structures and algorithms and things like those. So what we have done is we have categorized the companies, and we have listed down the processes that are there. So first, it would make a lot of sense if you pay attention here, and Bharat will walk you one by one through each of these categories. Once that is done, you can ask your doubt wherever you have a doubt, and then we'll be asking the we'll be answering the questions that you have asked. Okay, so over to Bharat, and please feel free to intervene and ask any question which you have in the middle. Okay.
Yeah, thanks Vivek. I am audible, right guys? Yes, okay, cool. So basically, if you are giving an interview for any of the companies that call themselves a tech company, be it fintech or just normal technical companies, then you will have to go through these four processes, right? First of all, you will have to build a resume or curriculum vitae, CV, right? That will be shortlisted by the company. Next step will be they will give you a test or an assignment as a test. Once you pass that test, they'll call you for an interview. Now that interview can be a telephonic interview, an on-site interview, or something like a hangout, right? So after you clear all these multiple interviews, you finally go for the HR or the cultural fit round, where they see if you fit the company's like profile or the team's profile, right? So these are the general processes that are followed, and understanding this is very important because this will finally give you like what you need to do to ace each part of the interview process, right? So now we have divided the companies into four different categories, I think. First one is the top tech companies. So FANG is a common short form for Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, Google, right? And then Microsoft and similar top tech companies. So uh, these companies mainly focus on your coding part, and they do not worry about web development irrespective of the role they hire on most of the times. So they'll just ask you data structure algorithms questions or other common CS topics like operating systems, networks, DBMS, etc. Okay, so uh, And the second type of company is the startups company, which are newly developing companies. They tend to focus more on sometimes web development or their own specific need. That is because their company size is less, so they tend to hire only those people who fit the bill completely, right? The third type of company, third type of jobs that you can apply for are something which are very specific to a particular profile. Like, let's say someone is hiring for a C++ developer. So this kind of need can be in any company, but in all of these cases, the title will not be software developer, but it will be something like C++ developer slash Java developer, Python developer, ML developer, something like this. So in that case, if you're going for an interview like that, they would want you to know about that particular field thoroughly, right? The final set of companies come the fintech company, out of which we have Tower Research Capital also, of which I am a part of. So all these companies, with the normal data structure and algorithm coding part, they would want you to know certain mathematics and probability so that they can hire you as a quant developer, right? So they would want you to run like probability estimations of any strategy that you are creating or any work that you are doing there, right? So that these type of skills like probability, statistics, linear algebra become important for any fintech company, right? So going one by one to through the different uh, procedures. First is resume shortlisting, right? So now this depends completely on if you are uh, giving the interview on campus or off campus. So if you're giving the interview on campus, that is as part of your campus drives, then most likely your college will be responsible for this resume shortlisting. And for this, you will have to maintain a good CGPA and like a good project so that your resume gets shortlisted in this case. Similarly, for off campus, first thing that becomes very important is a good referral. So not only a referral, but a referral from someone who is valued in the company. If the referral is from someone who is very like at a reputed position in the company, then there is a highly likely chance that your resume will be read first of all, and also it will be shortlisted in the future stages. Second, obviously, with a good referral also comes a also we need a good resume. In that, in all these cases, the CGPA matters somewhat. Also, your projects matter and your extracurricular activities too matter. Okay. So first stage is this resume shortlisting stage. Okay. So any of you guys have a like question till now? Till this part, resume shortlisting. So for building a good resume, we'll like try to incorporate that in whatever course that we float, and also give a little bit brief about that in this session only. And so for once the resume gets shortlisted, the next step is a coding test or an assignment test, right? So now the variation comes. So for any of the top tech companies, it is a general coding test which tests your data structure and algorithm, and there can be some MCQs on topics like OS, DBMS, networks, etc. So okay. So someone is asking if 2 pages resume is good and some CV number is good, CGPA number is good. So for those who are worried about CGPA, I think 7.5 to 8 is the bar that mostly company look for, right? And if even if you have a CGPA lower than that and you have a good project or multiple good projects and some good coding skills that you have shown showcase in some of the coding rounds like on code forces or and different sites like that, or if you have been into ACM ICPC and some contest like that, then also they'll consider you. Even if your CGPA is not like very good, they'll consider you. And if you have CGPA 8 plus, then it is, I think, no company should have an issue with that. Most of the companies shouldn't have an issue with that. And next question I think someone has asked is 2 pages resume is good. So I think there is a debate on this most of the times, but I prefer a single page resume that that showcases your major highlights. Like I've seen people like they have written 2 pages of resume, out of which 1.5 pages are like personal information, like their address, their family's history, and things like their co-curricular activities, like they are good in like cricket or something. If you are good in some sports and something like that, writing one line on that is fine. But if one page of the resume could have been eliminated, if you have removed such trivial details, then I think a short and concise CV is better than a lengthy and not that like concise CV, right? So, what is the question asked? Page resume should be carried. So there is no page limit, but I would say stick to 1 or maximum 1.5 pages and don't go beyond that. Okay. So I think we are good on resume. Let's move to the next part. The next part is the coding test or the assignment. So as I was telling, the top tech companies, the companies like Microsoft, Amazon, they only care about your data structure and algorithm most of the times, and some basic computer science knowledge. Like, so they'll test you on some coding questions. Some companies like Code Nation do have a debugging round also. Like they will put an error in your code and they will ask you to correct that. Okay. And also there are certain MCQs on topics like operating system, DBMS, networks, something like this. Now, if you go for a startup type job, they will most probably to check if you are fit for the specific role that they want. They'll give you an assignment task like build an API that takes data like from a database and shows it on a React GUI, something like this. So that will be a complete assignment that you will have to most of the times. I'm not saying that this is true for every startup. There are startups that hire solely on the basis of DS algo based coding test only, but many of the startups have now started giving assignment tasks because they want that whoever comes to their company starts being for the value from the day one. So they can only test that on the basis that if the person already knows how to build an API, how to build a React GUI using certain APIs, then he can start being productive from day one, something like that, right? Then next come some companies that are on profile specific roles. So in that case, mostly there is again the DS algo based coding test and some MCQs that are specific to that particular language. So for example, you're applying for a Python developer. Most likely you will get questions on something like regex, list versus tuple, something which is specific to Python. Similarly, if you apply for Java, there is a chance that you will get something on interfaces, which is not like common OOP in something like C++, right? So with the coding test, they can ask you some MCQs which are specific to that particular thing that they are looking for. Then last comes the quant part. In that case, there is again the coding test, and MCQs this time consist of questions on statistics, probabilities, linear algebra, something like this. So this is common in Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs generally hires for 3 different profiles if you have researched the market. So in the quant profile, they mostly put these type of questions in their test. Okay. Then okay, so any doubt with respect to, so if you take it in all, so common thing is the coding test. So that makes data structure and algorithm the most important part. That is only absent in case of startups. That also in a few startups. A few startups still ask for data structure and algorithm. Okay. So any questions, any specific questions on like this part, the coding test round? Okay, so I don't see any specific questions. Okay, which round is most important? Okay, so I think every round has an equal weightage, because if in any of the round you like fail, so they'll like not consider you for the future rounds, right? So if you do not have a strong resume, then you will obviously not go for the further rounds. If you don't pass the coding test, then maybe you will not be considered for the future interview rounds, right? So every round is equally important, I guess, right? So for machine learning, someone has asked for machine learning engineering profile, what kind of coding test they take. The coding test is again somewhat on the basis of DS algo, but in addition to that, there is a possibility that they put questions on something like a decision tree or something like logistic regression, linear regression, some neural networks, deep learning, anything like that. Whichever specific domain of machine learning they are looking for, they can put the questions there, right? Okay. So resources, I think we'll discuss that in the questions once we we have the questions already for resources. So I'll move on to next part. Let's complete this fast and then maybe we can move to the questions, right? So the third part is the interview round. So that can be like telephonic interview, on-site interview, hangout interview, right? So every company has a different mechanism of taking this interview. So in most of the top tech companies, it is most of the rounds. This can be okay. So this consists of generally multiple rounds. No company hires on the basis of just one round. This consists of many of the times multiple rounds. So out of let's say n rounds, most probably n minus one rounds will always be of the data structure and algorithm part, most of the times. With that, in case of top tech companies, uh, the last round, or you can say in each round, there is some portion that is taken from these chapters, common chapters of computer science, operating system, DBMS, networks, right? Then in case of startups, they again will ask you some form of data structure algorithm. Definitely they can't do without that, right? And also they can ask you something specific to the web technology that they are looking for. So if you know React, they can ask you something like, do you know Redux, or do you know how React works on its backend, right? Something like that. And they can also ask you system design. So they expect that if you are joining to their company, you will also be able to take important design decisions, which is generally not expected from someone who's a fresh hire. This is mostly for lateral hires, the system design part, right? Then there comes the profile specific. So they will definitely ask you just the algorithm again. And with that, they can ask you something language specific, like tell me how to write regex of something in Python, or similar OOP concepts in C++ or Java, which are specific to that, right? Then last, the quant. In this case, they also ask you certain puzzles and a certain probability or statistics based questions, right? Uh, on top of that, they obviously ask you data structure and algorithm, right? And last is your HR slash cultural fit round, I guess. So in this case, you have to showcase good communication skills, your confidence. This is completely non-technical. Most of the times, this is completely non-technical, and they'll give you certain situations. Like, let's say you are a team manager and someone from your team, some two people from your team have a conflict. So how will you go about resolving it? Something like this. So this is situation-based round mostly, and with that, sometimes if this is a cultural fit round, there can be a discussion on one of your projects, right? So this is another important part that also ties up with the resume part, that there should be a good project in your resume if you are applying off campus. If you're applying on campus, then sometimes a small project may also work if you have like other things. But if you are applying off campus, so in resume shortlist, you will only be shortlisted if you have a good project, right? One good project is all you need, not like do tens of projects and all those are like very small ones that do not really count, right? So this is basically the breakup of different type of companies and different type of rounds that they take, right, from our side. And now I think Vivek and I will take up like different questions that you guys have asked while filling up the form. Uh, so yeah.
Okay, guys. So I hope you were able to understand. So this was at very high level. Okay. So just try. Most of you would have got everything of it. Some of you will would have got some parts of it. So no worries. Now what we'll do, we'll one by one we'll pick up the questions that you guys have asked on a Google Doc, and we'll be answering them. Okay, so let me take the first question. The first question comes from Gargi Soni, who is from Stony Brook University, New York. So the question from Gargi is, uh, from scratch feasible study plans to get into Google in 6 months. So her question basically is that she wants to know the study plan right from scratch, which might help her get a job into Google in 6 months. Okay, so I would ask Bharat to answer this question.
Yeah. So I think I'll erase this. Okay, so many of the students have asked this question, like they want to know like what is the roadmap to follow. So so in 6 months, I believe that you can ace any good company's interview if you work diligently. Okay, and this is when I assume that you don't even know a programming language to its fullest, right? So I'll start one by one. So first of all, 15 to 20 days, right? First 15 to 20 days is what I'll give to learning a programming language. Okay. Okay. So many people also had questions regarding the languages to choose. For example, Kushal from Delhi Technology University had asked what language should a beginner focus on, and if it was necessary to know multiple languages. So I'll say that a person who is applying for like not a particular role like C++, Java or Python role, if a person is applying for a particular software developer role, he just needs to know one language. He needs to be proficient in one language and not more than that. Okay. And the preference that I give is to C and C++. If not C++, then Java. Someone else had also asked about Python. So I think generally these three are the top three languages that are talked about these days. So C, C++, if not C++, if you have studied Java in some like 12th standard or something like in your college most of the times, so you can even pick Java. With Python, the problem is that most of the basic constructs that are like fundamental to writing code in a programming language, like something like pointers or something like let's say maps and things like that, are most of the time abstracted out in Python. Like as you all know, Python is a relatively easier language to write code in. So and it also makes the code very concise, and the interviewer is not generally able to judge like if you will be able to handle corner cases, like if your memory goes out of bound, if you try to access something that is like that should not be accessible, because Python doesn't break for most of these conditions, right? And if the question asks you about something like a linked list or something like a tree, then writing that code in Python, first of all, is not that trivial, I'd say. And also the link that is there. So most of you would be knowing, in case of a linked list, we generally tend to modify these pointers that point to a particular position. So implementing these kind of thing in Python is neither advisable and nor that trivial, right? So I would advise you as a first language to not select Python, right? Python is widely used in like most of the tech companies, so it is a very important language. But even for like even if a team is using Python as a main language, they'll never ask you questions in Python. They'll expect you to answer the questions that they ask in either C, C++ or Java. So I'd say choose one of these as your major primary language, right? Then so 15 to 20 days. How did I come up with this? So for C, C++, I think the best book or the most common book that people use is of Balaguru Swami, I guess, right? And for Java, it is mostly, I would recommend Head First, but you can go for any other book. So most of these books you will see have around 15 chapters to 20 chapters. So if you even do one chapter each day, then also you'll be able to like complete the book in 15 to 20 days, right? And one chapter each day is not that big a deal because chapters are like on if else and for loops, which is not that difficult to complete in one day itself, right? So in learning a programming language, what all does it constitute of? So this consists of conditional statements, which is your if else, your loops, right? Then something of the sort of arrays and strings. If you are doing C or C++, then pointers, right? And structures, maybe classes, right? So all this constitute of learning a particular programming language. Okay. Any more doubts in this part? How many hours to dedicate per day? So I would say to make your target not in the terms of hours, but rather in terms of like completing the course for in like whatever target you set. So if you set it to 20 days, then divide the, I think, complete length of the course in 20 parts, and then you have decide to complete it till that part on each day. I think that works better than deciding like I'll study for 2 hours, because in 2 hours your mind may not be there for the complete time, and in that case like you fall back and things of that sort happen, right? So is Python good to start with the DS algo for interviews? I that's what I told you. Python I don't think is a good language to start DS algo, because most of the data structure and algorithm are abstracted out in Python, so you don't really get to implement those. They are also abstracted out in C++, but when an interviewer asks you about a particular data structure, then he wants you to implement it from scratch and not use the abstracted out versions. For example, if he asks a question on heap, he would want you to implement the heap rather than to use the priority queue directly, right? Something like that. So that's why I would advise you to not go with Python in the beginning. Okay, let's move to the next part of this. So after this first 15 to 20 days, I will advise you to take 10 to 15 days on problem solving, right? I think this is the most important part that people tend to forget, that directly do not jump to data structures and algorithm, right? This does not consist of data structure and algorithm, but this consists of problem solving. What is problem solving? Problem solving is converting your thought process into lines of code, right? For example, let's say you're given an array, and what you have to do is you have to sum up every pair and then take sum of that, right? So 1 plus 2, 1 plus 3, 1 plus 4. So every pair sum, then sum of that. So how would you do it, like in your mind, if you had to do it? So I think most of you will do it something like this. First 1 plus 2 plus 1 plus 3 plus 1 plus 4 and so on, right? 2 plus 1 plus 2 plus 2. I forgot 1 plus 1. Yeah, something like this. So converting this into lines of code, like writing a for loop from I equal to 1 to n, then again a for loop from j equal to 1 to n, and then doing sum plus equal to array of I plus array of j. These kind of simple problem where you convert your thought process, like how you are doing, how you are solving a particular problem in your mind, to lines of executable code. That is very important, and I think this should be done like for by everyone. So if you skip this part, then you tend to mostly learn the questions rather than understand the logic behind it, right? So most of the like data structure and algorithm that are taught after this are just optimization on the brute force solution, right? This is the brute force solution. So anything, if you try to optimize this further, then it would be done with the help of a data structure or an algorithm, but those are mostly optimization techniques. So if you are not fluent enough with problem solving itself, most of the times you will be learning the question instead of understanding why did we use this particular data structure or algorithm to optimize this technique, optimize this type of question, right? So that's why I would suggest that do this for 10 to 15 days. For this, I would recommend doing Codeforces div to A and B questions. So these are very simple questions. They mostly do not require any data structure or algorithm. These mostly are based on if-else statements, for loops, arrays, strings. That's it. So this will be a good practice of whatever you have learned in last 15 to 20 days. Even you can mix these two and complete it in 30 days, right? So this is for 1 month. Next 1.5 months. Okay, first of all, some people had also asked certain question, like I think Amit Datta from BitMesra had said that is competitive programming necessary, or can we just do with Geeks for Geeks? So this is what I also emphasize. So basically, doing coding on sites like Codeforces is generally called as competitive programming, right? So I would say that doing competitive programming is not necessary, but like doing competitive programming where you solve questions of like fifth or sixth higher difficulty is not necessary, but you should at least be able to solve any question that comes on the first three difficulty levels, that is div 2 A, B and C. Even if you are able to do that, that is sufficient and what is necessary. You don't need to go beyond that most of the times, right? So I would say competitive programming is not necessary, but it is advisable, right? The second option that he gave was of Geeks for Geeks. I would say that Geeks for Geeks is not a very good site to like do the coding questions, because it is the complete exhaustive list, but it is not that organized. If you try to do each and every question in Geeks for Geeks, that will take forever, and that is literally impossible. So this is only possible, like acing every question, every random question asked from Geeks for Geeks is only possible if you are good with problem solving and you have also revised your data structure and algorithm. So that way, any new problem, even if it is not there on Geeks for Geeks, any new problem comes, you will be able to tackle that, right? So I would say both of them are like not the complete source. I would say a mix has to go. Like you should be at least be able to do the first three levels of competitive programming. Simultaneously, you should also be able to deal with different types of interview questions that are there on multiple sites like LeetCode and something like that, right? So after this 1 month, I would suggest 1.5 months that you dedicate on understanding different data structures. Okay. So there is a lot of confusion on what all data structures to learn. So I would suggest you go for only these, like stacks, queues, right? Linked lists, binary trees, binary search trees, heaps, right? And graphs. There are certain like higher level structures like tries and segment trees that are sometimes asked in heavy like companies, like maybe they can be asked in a company like Google or Facebook, but they are generally not asked in any of the other major tech companies, right? So if your target is like Google or Facebook, then you definitely need to cover these also. But if it's not there, then only till the graphs is enough, right? You don't need to go for anything higher than this. Like there are suffix trees, there is something like maybe Fenwick tree, although that is simpler than this, but still I would say not to go for that, and other type of trees and other type of different data structures. So I don't think you need to go for all this. The only limit should be till this point. Okay, everyone okay with this, right? Then comes practice of this in this 1.5 month only. So I think the best site that you can, someone has also asked this, I think Rahul from LPU has asked this, that which should be the best platform to learn these coding skills. So I think the best platform for this should be LeetCode only. Okay. Yeah. So I think the best site should be LeetCode. Okay. Everyone okay with this? And not, I think, Geeks for Geeks. Okay. Because that is not that well organized. So this was 1.5 months. Yeah. After this, I would say next 1.5 months should be similarly given to algorithms. In this, the first thing that is very, very important is calculation of time and space complexities. People tend to ignore this, but this is asked in any question that you do. Any new question, any old question, they will definitely ask you what is the time and space complexity of the solution, right? So understanding and knowing how to calculate this different techniques is like very important. Okay. Next most important thing comes is recursion. Understanding of recursion is very important if you want to understand something like dynamic programming or something like even trees, heaps, any of the structures where inherently we tend to use recursion, right? So recursion and backtracking is the second important algorithm, right? Then there are certain searching algorithms, there are certain sorting algorithms, right? Then there are certain greedy algorithms. Then comes dynamic programming. I think this is again very, very important and is one of the favorite topics of most of the tech companies, right? Then there are some like not that important topics, like something like bit manipulation or something like mathematical algorithms. like calculation of sieve and something like that. So these are not like super important, I would say, but they are sometime asked. Some common questions are they are very common in interviews, but but these algorithms have a very limited scope of questions. Okay, and I would advise you going against like anything more complex than this, like something like number theory based algorithms, like calculation of, I would say, FTT, sorry, FFT, right, or something of similar sort. This is not advisable and should not be read, although this is available in GFG. But I think the list that I've provided till now is the sufficient one, right? Yeah, one topic that I left here is definitely hashing, and similarly two pointers. So these are also very important. Two pointers techniques and hashing, these are also very important, right? Any doubt in this? So BFS, DFS, I added that in data structure part. So yeah, definitely they are important, but heavy graph algorithms like going beyond something like Dijkstra is not that relevant. Like going for something like heavy like decomposition or some centroid decomposition or something like that, that will not be asked mostly in the interviews, and it will only be limited to basic graph algorithms like topological sort or asking Dijkstra's or something like that, right? So I would suggest, yeah, so someone has asked which platform do you suggest for algorithm practice. So I would suggest LeetCode. Also I would suggest trying your hand at certain Codeforces diff to C and D level problems, right? So LeetCode and CFD and D, sorry, C and D. Yeah. So there are like really very good and interesting dynamic programming based problems in Codeforces C and D that are like that really help you understand dynamic programming till the complete depth, right? So yeah, D can be a bit difficult, so you can limit yourself to C. So that's why I said trying your hand at this. This is not necessary, but I would say you should try your hand at that, right? Okay, so next, I think after algorithm, we move on to other important OS topics, which I think can be done in 1 month. These other important OS topics, you need to be very careful of what you study here. Don't go for like anything and everything everyone recommends, and only stick to only these topics like operating systems. In this also, I would suggest focusing on process scheduling, synchronization, and deadlocks mostly. Then I would suggest going for DBMS, in which SQL and normalization forms are very important. Third, I would suggest is going for networks, right? To some details, like knowing basic difference between TCP, UDP, and different protocols, how they work, right? And last, I would suggest reading something about system design. I think this is important mostly for those people who are applying for a senior position than SD1. Most of the companies don't ask SD1 about system design type questions, but uh, if you are applying for a higher position, it is likely that you will have a system design based round in one of your interviews. Okay. So I would now like to take some of the questions. Yeah, so I think before going ahead, I would like to take some of the questions that were like asked by some of the students. So I think Satyam Roy from I think Burdwan University had asked that how can you start learning DP and trees? Okay, so like I told you, for understanding dynamic programming and trees, the first very important thing is understanding recursion, and uh, for understanding recursion, we would uh, yeah. So we had also created a certain videos that we have posted on YouTube on recursion and dynamic programming. So if you have problem understanding, you can always refer to them as well. So for understanding dynamic programming as well as trees, the first basic important thing is understanding recursion. The second most important thing is understanding how pointers work. If you know these two things, I think any problem in dynamic programming or in trees for that matter can be easily solved. Okay. Someone has asked, I think, how to use LeetCode effectively. So I would suggest, like, if you go in this 1.5 month program, like 1.5 month time. So if you are reading and learning about a particular data structure or a particular algorithm, try to solve at least the easy and very easy part, like going through the course. And then when you get time to practice, try to do more of medium. When you like are complete with the syllabus, then try to practice more on the medium and hard part, right? Yeah. Someone else has asked, I think Suraj had asked from Pune Institute of Computer Technology, that how do you tackle questions that are based on system design? So first of all, you really need to understand that system design is not like expected to be asked from someone who is applying for a SD1 position. So if you are in college, and I think you should not worry that much about this. Even if they ask you about it, you should understand that system design is not something which has a definite solution, right? So it is most likely something like you have to arrive at something which is most optimum according to you. There is no right answer to that. You have to like divide the complete system into different parts that you can think of, and like the interviewer only tries to judge you on how far you can think, how good are you in communicating your solution to him, how good are you in following like different type of like I should say design practices, and that you can easily learn with the help of certain standard questions. Like there are many standard questions like how to design Twitter, how to design Amazon, how to design something like Uber. These type of questions are available everywhere, I think. And once you go through them, you can understand what type of design patterns are there, and to any new problem that you are given of system design, you can try to think of applying those design patterns there, right? So this was there. Also, Prabhat, I think, had asked from IIIT Bhubaneswar that apart from DS and Algo, do we need development side skills also? So, as I told you, I divided initially the all the list of companies into like 4 categories. So, if you are applying for a startup role or a specific web developer role, then development skills may be required. But if you are applying for a standard software developer role, then I don't think someone will ask you about your development side skills unless you have mentioned a project that is on something of a development side. Like if you mention you have created a Django app that integrates with the React based GUI, then maybe they can ask you about that, because if then maybe they have shortlisted you only on the basis of reading your resume and only on the basis of this project, that they think that you can be a good fit for one of their projects in which they have used these features, right? So apart from DS Algo, the only things that are mostly required are these three, I would say. The fourth one is also for someone like who's applying for a higher role. Okay. Yeah. So I think apart from this, I would say, so this turns out to be 1 month, then 3 months, which is 4, and 1 5. So 1 month is left. So I would suggest in last 1 month, you concentrate solely on one thing is like practicing more DS algo. That includes lead code, hard type problems. If you want to tackle a very high company like Google, and otherwise lead code medium, something like that. Okay. Second thing that I would advise everyone is to create a good resume, right? And for this, you need a good project. This project can be in anything. This could be an MLA based project. This could be something on blockchain. This could be something in web. This could even be some sort of a game, app, anything like that. So one project is required, right? That should go in your resume. And secondly, I would advise you to put this project's code on GitHub so that you can share that GitHub repos link in your resume. If you have GitHub repos links in the resume, that is like really, really helpful in getting your resume shortlisted, right? Are open source project good? So contributing to open source is a completely different field. Like they won't help you much in getting a job, I think, but making your code open source is beneficial for you because then you can directly put the link there, and someone who is interested in knowing what exactly you have done in the coding part can easily go to that link and look at whatever you have done, right? So someone has asked in which field you should do this project. So I wrote down approximately 3-4 fields here. So basically I would say go for any field, but this project should be something about which you can speak for I would say 15-20 minutes at least. If someone asks you what major project you have done, it should not be like 2-3 lines and then you are not able to tell something, right? So it should be at least explainable till 10-15 minutes of your time. Okay. So should we apply for GSOC? What is the optimum time when we should do GSOC? So this is a completely different, I think, domain of open source. So if you want that, you can ping me directly, I think, and I'll be able to help you better there. But that would that is a separate discussion. So let's concentrate on this for now. Okay. So good resume with a good project, and you should upload that project on GitHub. Second, I would also suggest you, I hope this is visible, yeah, to make a LinkedIn profile of yours, right? So this LinkedIn profiles gives you visibility in the field of yours. You get connected to many recruiters. You also get connected to many of the people that are there of your college, of your past school, something like that. And when you go in a company, then the people from the company get connected to you as well. So if they leave and move to a new company, you can easily see where they are currently, and if you want to go there, you can directly apply by using their referral. So having a LinkedIn profile is also very important at this point. So this is the 6-month plan that I would say is will easily be able to fetch you a good job. I think this should definitely be enough for companies like maybe Amazon, Microsoft, for applying for, let's say, Google or Facebook. You can replace this. I am assuming you have to spend a 1 month extra on doing some more good level problems, I think, right? So now I will take some more question. So I think Kunal from Maharaja Agrisane had asked that does your college GPA matters in the interviews? So I don't think it matters in the interviews. The only place that it could matter is the resume shortlisting. So as I suggested, that 8 CGPA, if you have 8 or 8 plus CGPA, then that is more than enough to, like, that would not be a barrier then. But if you have something less, then you should have something to compensate for that in the form of any like coding contest, I would say, or project, some very good project that shines out and that has a very like good code on GitHub also. So even if with low CGPA you can get a very good job, that should not be a barrier as such. Okay. So I think Sunil had asked from Budelkhand University that he's from like people from tier 3 colleges uh, are they easily able to get their resume shortlisted in the screening? So I don't think like, I would not lie, the college does matter a bit in terms of resume shortlisting, but if you have good things in your project, then this should not be that much of a difficulty. uh, we have taught certain students from colleges like tier 3 colleges, like many of the colleges like Lovely Professional University, who were able to get their resume shortlisted for Google's round as well and moved on to 2 or 3 rounds, right? So I don't think that this is that big of a barrier being a tier 3 college student. The only thing that you need to make sure in your resume is there should not be any grammatical mistakes that are easily a red flag, and uh, that is easily a red flag. And second thing, very important thing, is that it should not be too small, neither it should be like too detailed. So you have to highlight those points that you want the recruiter to know or want the person reading your resume to know. Like if you have done a good project in machine learning, you should definitely highlight the algorithms that you have used or the comparison that you have done with standard algorithms, right? So highlighting the important thing is very important when you are building your resume. Okay. Some okay. I think Prashant from ITBHU had asked, do top tech companies recruit non-circuital guys? How does the branch affect the selection and promotion in the company? So, Prashant, we ourselves, Programming Pathshala, started by teaching the non-circuital branches themselves from IIT itself. So, they were able to bag like very good jobs in top of the top companies, like even they went to, I think, Razorpay and Microsoft and companies like that. So, I don't think being from a non-circuital branch anyway acts against you. Okay, the only extra effort that you might have to put will be in learning these topics, like other topics like OS, other CS topics should be like operating systems, networks, DBMS, because they may not be a part of your curriculum, right? So that can be an extra effort that you may have to put there, right? Then I think Vaishnav from Dev Sanskriti Vidyalaya asked that how do you present yourself in front of an interviewer? So I think this is very important, how to behave in front of the interviewer. So uh, I would suggest everyone like to be very confident when facing the interview. So you should always remember that interviewer doesn't want to reject you. He is not looking for if he has been put to take put on a call to take your interview, then he would there would definitely be a position available, right? So his mentality is to find good qualities in you and be able to select you, and not to find any one negative point and then say that you are not eligible. So even if he cross questions, even if he tries to intimidate you, he's just testing you, and he slash slash she is just testing you and is not looking for like is just seeing that how you handle a pressure situation. Okay, so one thing is this is very important, and second important thing is to always communicate with the interviewer. So you should not be like quiet and not tell anything like what you are thinking to the interviewer. Let's say the interview is going on and you are quiet for 15 minutes. He has asked you a question, you are thinking about the question. So how would he know that you are even thinking about it, right? So, and what is your thought process? If you try to communicate with the interviewer, then they may point to a better solution themselves. They try to give you hints so that you can reach at the correct solution, right? So next question was from, I think, Sakshi Mittal from University of Warwick, that at times you see a problem and you have no idea what to do with it, and only brute force comes to your mind. So should you share it? So I would suggest that definitely you should share it. If you share the brute force solution, at least the interviewer would know that you have given an effort. If you are not able to think of the most optimized solution, then he may try to give you some hints so that you can finally arrive at the correct solution, right? So yes, so to answer to this question will be that yes, you should definitely share the brute force solution. Then I think there was a particular question that from Sri Satya, that is development or testing a better department. I think Vivek would be better able to tell that.
Yeah, guys. So first of all, did you get a clarity on how you can maybe kickstart your 6-month program? If you want to start your roadmap, if you want to build a roadmap to help yourself crack a good company, did you get a clarity on like how much time should be spent on which topic and what are those essential topics? Okay, cool. So that's great. So now I'll talk a bit about, so you heard of many terms like when an interview happens, an interviewer tries to judge several skills like coding skills, problem solving skills. So you've heard these things, but do you really understand difference between these? Like what according to you should be difference between coding skill and problem solving skill? I'm going to erase it. So what is the difference? How are the two rounds different? Somebody can be a good coder, but not a good problem solver. So can you give me a hint that how the two things are different? I spoke two things, coding skills and problem solving skills. Okay, how are they different? Okay, so somebody is saying problem solving may be related to real life stuff. So generally for entry level graduates, they don't ask you real life stuffs a lot. They ask you some typical mathematical or puzzle kind of question. It's like a theoretical thing which they convert into question and they ask you to code. So let me just ask you a very simple question. Okay, what we'll do is think of it like I'm asking you a question, and maybe I'll see what kind of approaches are coming from your side. So let's say I give you an array, something like this. So there is an array of integers. Do you all understand what an array is? Can I assume everyone here knows what an array is? So a collection of data, a collection of numbers of similar data types. So it could be like if you have an array of integers, you could have elements like 1, 3, 4, 9, 2. So let's say this is my array of integers and it contains 5 elements. So let's say interviewer asks you this, that how many pairs I comma j are there such that I is not equals to j, okay, and array of I plus array of j is even. Okay, I is not equals to j and array of I plus array of j is even. And what I mean by that is ordered pairs. Okay, so basically I have to find that how many pair of numbers are there in this array such that their sum is an even number. Okay, now you can come up with multiple solutions for this. How many of you can think of some very basic solution for this? Really basic solution. And when I say ordered pair, I mean to say, let's say if you have counted 0, 1, that 1 and 3 are giving me 4, then you need not count 1 comma 0 again. Okay, so you can think of very basic solution, which is you can write a for loop where your I goes from 0 to n minus 1, and inside this your j goes from I plus 1 to n minus 1, and you will check for the value of ai plus aj. If ai plus aj is coming out to be even, you will increment a counter which is initially set to 0 by 1. You will do count plus plus if you see this value is coming out to be even. Okay, so how many of you thought of this solution? How many of you could think of this simple solution? So I hope most of you would have been able to think of it. So this is called as a brute force solution, which will run in order n square time, because you have an outer loop that runs n times, and there is an inner loop that also runs for approximately n times. Okay, so if you count, the total number of iterations that are happening is going to be something like order n square. But few of you answered it. Another way of thinking it could be something like this, that let's say I have got some numbers in my array. Now I can categorize those numbers as even numbers and odd numbers. Now what are the even numbers? Even numbers are 4 and 2, and odd numbers are 1, 3 and 9. Now guys, tell me, can you ever take an even number, let's say 6, and an odd number 11, such that their sum is also even? Can it ever happen? Can it ever happen that you take an even number and an odd number and end up getting a sum which is even? No, that cannot happen. But can I say that the sum of two even will always be even, and the sum of two odds will also always be even? Is it not? So if I want an even sum, both the numbers should either be even or both the numbers should either be odd. One even and one odd is not going to give me the answer. So another way to solve this problem could have been that I could simply have counted how many even numbers are there. Okay, if let's say number of even numbers is n1 and number of odd numbers is n2, then I just want to know that how many distinct pairs will be there. So I have got n1 elements, and in how many different ways I can select two elements from these n1 elements. And what is that? Have you studied that in permutation and combination? Yes, that is n1c2, and this is n2c2. So if you just add this, you get your answer. And this is just going to take order n amount of time, because I just have to count how many evens were there and how many odds were there, and I got my job done. Okay, so this is a thought. Okay, this is a thought which is different from this. This particular thought itself is called as problem solving. Okay, which helps me reduce my running time from order n square to something which is below order n square. Now, once this approach is told to you, then anyone can code it, right? You can code it or not. Once I have told this to you, you can easily write a code for this. That is what coding is. Okay, so generally what happens, company want a proper balance between these two skills. There have been many guys who are very good problem solvers, but they did never get their hands dirty on code, and that was the reason they ended up getting rejected in company interviews, especially in hardcore tech company interviews like Amazon or Microsoft, where they are really careful about whether you are writing the correct code or not, whether you are very clear about the language specific constructs or not. Okay, so you need to have a very proper balance of these both things. Is that clear? Did you understand now what is the difference between coding and problem solving, and why the proper balance of both of them is needed? Did you all get that? So that is a very important thing, and that's the reason just understanding the algorithm is not enough, but implementing it on your own and implementing it across a variety of problems of easy category, medium category, hard category is also very important. Okay, so now what I'll do is that actually I have few questions that some of you asked, and I'll tell you a bit about that. We have been basically training many of the students which hail from a variety of universities, and they ended up getting very good jobs. So some of you who asked questions like, if I am from a tier 3 college, is that going to be a hurdle for me? Let me tell you one thing. Even when I was there at Amazon, out of all the interviews that I have taken, there were many guys who were from tier 2 and tier 3 universities. And if their coding skills were good, if they were good coder, then then it was not of a much concern for me or for Amazon whether they are from which college. Okay, so luckily today I have with me uh, some of some of the past alumni of Programming Pathshala. So Ravi, are you there? I have Ravi with me, who hails from a lovely professional university. Yeah, Ravi, can you hear me? Yeah, Ravi, can you hear me? Let's see. So basically, the idea is
Yes, I can.
that I would get him on to answer some questions that you people have asked. So Ravi, here is the first question for you. So somebody has asked, so Abhishek Chauhan from AB's Engineering College has asked that how to get placed in Amazon if a student belongs to tier 3 college and had not done any internship. Okay, I repeat the question. How to get placed in Amazon if student belongs to tier 3 college and had not done any internship. Few background a bit about Ravi is that he belongs to a lovely professional university, and he ended up getting a full-time offer from Amazon and currently is working as a software developer over there. So Ravi, you can put your thoughts over here on this question.
Yeah, sure. So hey, so basically, as Vivek told that I have done my engineering from Lovely Professional University, which many consider as a tier 3 college. And even I haven't done any sort of internship, but I ended up getting a job at Amazon. So basically, this question also came to my mind when I was in fourth year, and there was some rumors that Amazon will not be, you know, coming to our campus. And I was from a tier 3 college and haven't done any internship. So at that point of time, so I actually was having this question also. So in order to answer this question, that first of all, I would like to clear this myth that Amazon doesn't differentiate between tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 colleges. Uh, Students. So students from all sort of colleges used to work there. And talking about internship, it's varies from individual thoughts that is it a mandatory parameter that will play a vital role for getting into the company. So I would say that it's good if you are done any internship, but it's not a mandatory parameter that company will judge you based on that. So, and talking about how to get placed at Amazon, being from a tier 3 college. So, uh, so there are two things that you need to do. First of all, that you need to have a very good preparation, and second thing is that you need to, weigh out or connections using which you can get an opportunity to interview with Amazon. So, in terms of preparation, so actually there are many things which are involved in preparation. The first thing is that, of course, you need to practice a lot of questions and lot of questions. But in that also, while solving the questions, you need to keep in mind there only you need to solve the right set of questions rather than solving all like 300, 400 sort of questions. So in order to uh, make my preparation strong, I actually joined the workshop by Programming Pathshala. So there were three workshops that I attended from that were conducted by Programming Pathshala in our university. So all three of them helped me a lot. They were like they actually told me that what set of question that you should solve and what set of question that you should not solve, which actually helped me saving my time and doing the right set of questions. They also conducted some mock interviews which actually boosted my confidence because you were actually interviewed by people who are working in the companies like Amazon, Google, Facebook. So yeah, it actually helped me a lot. And yeah, so that's it from my side. Like,
Yeah, thank you, Ravi. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. I hope that was helpful to you. And so basically the point is that if you are if you are a good problem solver, and you know that you are very well aware of which are the varieties of questions that get asked. So basically what happens is that the resources of data structures and algorithms are very, very cluttered out there on net. But in the last few years we have somehow very well managed to create the categories of questions that are there. Okay, so there are some good categories of questions which we have figured out, and we tried it out on a pilot based model where we trained people like Ravi, and we really got amazing jobs. And we saw that it really doesn't matter that what your background has been and what your past has been. If you are really motivated enough to work hard, and you have that passion, that taste for coding, then just all that you need is right kind of mentorship and right kind of curriculum. Okay, so I think that was a very good insight that we just got. Okay, so apart from Ravi, we have another past alumni with us. So guys, I hope you might have heard of a company called as DirectEye. How many of you have heard of DirectEye? So yeah, DirectEye is a very well-known company which hires a lot many bright minds. So we have Sai Pavan with us. I'll be unmuting Sai. Sai, can you hear me?
Yes, bhai.
Yeah. So there is a question that I would want to ask from Sai, and it has been asked from Shah Alam Ansari from Lovely Professional University. So the question says that what was your preparation plan and how did you manage to keep up with it? So the second part of question I think is very, very important, that how did he manage to keep up with it? Because at times it happens that you appear for an interview and you get rejected, so you feel very, very demotivated. And Sai has been through that, but he kept his spirits up and he ended up getting a very good job and much competent offer as well. Okay, so Sai, just put your thoughts on this, that what was your preparation plan and how did you manage to keep up with it?
Hey guys, I'm working as a software developer in DirectEye, specifically Media.net. So what was my preparation plan? So it all started when Anup Kalbalia visited our university. So I attended just a little 1 hour session of Anup Kalbalia. From then we used to practice little and then, but the real preparation or a real step towards preparation started when Programming Pathshala visited our campus in third year. So we attended a 1 week workshop by Programming Pathshala, in which Vivek Bhaiya taught us many concepts. So from then we started, we were divided into groups and we started practicing in a group. So we used to discuss problems with each other. It not only exposes us to most of the problems, but also imbibes the confidence and motivation to continue the practice. So, and then after that, there's another workshop. There were two another workshop in which we participated. Those really helped me. There were some questions, the standard questions which were taught by Bharat Bhaiya and Vivek Bhaiya, which helped us really. And then to practice these questions, even after the workshops, we followed this, we solved the questions in InterviewBit and CodeChef. InterviewBit really helps in practicing for the interviews, because you will solve the questions according to the topic. The questions are divided into buckets. And so if you have even less time, then you can solve one question from one bucket. So you will end up covering most of the parts, most of the questions. And how did I manage to keep up with that? I thought I'll crack Amazon. So when Amazon visited our campus in September 2018, I thought I'll crack it, and unfortunately I couldn't. So then I thought that it's the end, but it's not. The problem I found out after giving the Amazon interview is that I'm not very good at communicating. Even though I have solved the question in the interview, but I couldn't communicate it properly with the interviewer. So after then, I realized my mistake, and then I started preparing and I started filling my mistakes. So I started, even after solving question, I used to explain it to myself in a very plain English. So, and I also started the practicing questions on white paper. So, and then I took an internship in January. So even after getting an internship, I used to solve 1 or 2 questions daily, just to keep the touch with it, and yeah, and then solve the questions and to crack the interview. So then I got an offer. So mainly keep up with it, the practice preparation, you need to find the right set of people. Even in the internship, I found 2 other guys who joined with me, and I used to discuss with them and share our views and to optimize the question. So I think that's the way to move ahead.
Okay, that's great. So guys, till now, do you have any question that you want to ask from either Sai from DirectEye or Ravi from Amazon? Anything that is bugging in your mind, any preparation strategy or something, how to proceed? So can you just elaborate it a bit? So can you please send your message publicly and not privately? Okay. So Sachin asks that, okay, so let me take Akshay's because he was the first. So when stuck with questions, what should be done? So Sai, would you like to answer this? What did you used to do when you used to get stuck with questions? Maybe questions in DP or graphs or something like that.
First of all, whenever I get any question, I'll solve it. I'll think about the brute force method, and then I see the patterns where there are some repetitions in code where I'm doing the work again and again. Those things I used to find out and I used to solve it. So even then, if I able to solve any question, then the best way is to discuss with everybody. So go out and discuss with your friends, and even while explaining the question to the other person, your friends, you might get a hit and you might solve a question. You might get a yeah, and you might get a solution to solve the question. And I think with practice, this gets easier.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer. So guys, it is community learning plays a great role. So when you are training with a group of people, when you are learning together, then basically what happens is, I'll share my experience with you. So I'll have to mute back Sai. So Sai, I'm just going to mute you back. Thank you for your time. So basically, more than knowing which is the right solution for a particular problem, this is very, very important to know that what are the wrong solutions and why they are wrong. Okay, because when an interview happens, then interviewer is not sitting there to listen the most optimal approach that you know. So basically what happens, he just wants to know from you that whether you are able to think of the most brute force approach or not, and then by getting hints you can optimize on that or not, because this gives a lot of hints to your interviewers. First hint I'll tell you, and that is very, very practical. If you are not able to grasp the hint that interviewer has given you in an interview, that means 2 things, and listen very carefully. First thing, that you are not a good listener. If you are not a good listener, you can never be a good team member. You are not culturally fit to join the company, that particular company. Okay. Second thing, that you joined, but you heard the hint, but you could not take steps to come onto the correct solution. Now that again means that either you did not take an effort, or you had not done sufficient amount of practice before coming and sitting for interviews. Okay, so basically, everything that happens has a particular root cause. Now if you actually deep dive into that root cause, then you will be able to come up with that, hey, why this happened or why that happened, right? So the most important thing is that when you are preparing for interviews, firstly you should be done with all the basic things that Bharat spoke to you about. And I understand these things are available out there, and based on the experience that we have had at Programming Pathshala training students. So we have seen that cracking the interviews is not something like preparing for ACM ICPC. Okay, it is not something where you have to do hardcore competitive programming. It is something that can be done when you have a very streamlined set of resources, a well-defined timeline, and the right mentors to train you. Okay, and that can be very easily done. That just requires dedication and solving all the varieties of problems that are out there existing. Okay, so again and again I would say that firstly you should cement your basics as far as possible when it comes to DSLGO, and then you should get into a lot of problem solving mode, and then you are automatically there. Okay, so generally what happens with guys is there are two kinds of problems. First problem is that they are unable to prepare themselves for interviews on their own. Okay, because maybe they lack motivation or mentorship or resources, something like that. And second thing is that they do have those, but they don't have the right set of opportunities. Okay, but you know, even these kinds of things we at Programming Pathshala have been trying to mend through because in near future, maybe in Feb only, we will be rolling out a program like that, wherein we'll be the ones who will be responsible for training, and we'll be the ones who will be responsible for placements as well. Okay, so so you know, it's a lot of hard work which has been done, a lot of research which has been done, based on which we could figure out that okay, these are the set of steps that are to be taken, and if taken in the right manner, you are there. The only thing that is expected from you is motivation and the right frame of mind. That's it, and nothing else. Okay, I also have Ayushi with me. So Ayushi has just joined Microsoft, and she'll just share her experience with you. But before that, Ayushi, you will have to answer a question. Ayushi, can you hear me? Ayushi, are you there? Can you hear me? Just say yes if you can hear me.
Hello.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes. Now I can hear you.
Yeah. So Ayushi, I have a question from Anurag Aman, and he is asking that I mostly crack the coding rounds, but I get stuck in interviews. How to overcome this problem? I repeat, I mostly crack the coding rounds, but I get stuck in interviews. How to overcome this problem? So can you share your thoughts on this?
Okay, so I think, so first of all, my name is Ayushi Agrawal. I'm a fourth year student in BIT Mestra. I interned in Microsoft in 2019 and I got a pre-placement offer from there. So I think Anurag's problem is he's not able to cross the interview. Yes, he's not able to cross the interviews. So I think he must try many mock interviews which are arranged by Programming Pathshala, so that he gains some confidence, and he's like he'll be able to know what are the where are the places he's lagging in while giving the interviews, and he'll be able to improve those areas.
Okay,
And
that's
as far as I know, Programming Pathshala's mock interviews are being arranged by people, I think, who work in Amazon, Google, and Facebook. So this will be very good, and he must take regular feedbacks from these people and should work on those feedbacks.
okay. That's great. So that's really nicely summarized. So basically, guys, what happens is that a few guys who are already there, whose preparation is all done, but they have that kind of interview fear within them. So mock interviews is something that really helps a lot, and also mock interviews from people who actually have worked there or at organizations like that. So since they take interviews very regularly, they can help you understand that, hey, see, no interviewer sits with you with a negative frame of mind, with a frame of mind of rejection. No, because he's giving his 1 hour to you, okay? And that 1 hour is being dedicated for hiring, not for mishiring or unhiring, okay? So his mental attitude would be to hire you. You just have to listen to him very carefully. And if you have actually prepared well, and let's say you are asked a question which you don't know anything about, you can ask for hints actually. And if you work towards the hint and then get the right approach, he'll be more than happy to hire you in 90% of the cases. Okay, because getting a hint in an interview and then coding the solution is considered as a very positive thing. Okay, that you are a good listener and you can listen and work well in a team. Okay.
Yes, and one more thing I would like to add, that always start with a brute force solution. Even if you know a better solution of that question, always start with a brute force solution and then improve that solution. Like you, even if you know the best solution, you start with the brute force and then act like you are improving the solution, and tell the interview that I can improve the solution, and then tell the better solution.
Yeah, so that is also a good point. So thank you for sharing that with us, Ayushi. I'll be just muting you back. So that is an important thing to be kept in mind whenever you are asked a question in an interview. Always start with brute force solution, and that applies everywhere. Even if you are doing a new question, always start with the brute force one. So Sachin has asked a question: for third year on-campus internship in tier 1 college, what resume is considered good? Please answer. So Sachin, to answer your question, first thing first, in colleges, if it is on-campus placement, then resumes actually don't matter a lot. If the companies you are applying to are like Amazon or Microsoft, because generally in on-campus placements, resumes would matter if it is a consultancy-based company or it is hiring for some kind of analyst role or something like that, right? But if it is for companies like Amazon or something like that, then you don't have to worry a lot. Still, if you want to make your resume look good, I'll tell you few pointers. Never forget to mention some very important things, like if you have a profile on some good coding platform like HackerRank or like LeetCode, please do mention that, hey, I have solved these many questions over there. This is my profile. If you have a profile on GitHub, you have done some development, although for freshers, it is not that important. You can mention that as well. Okay. And your resume typically should be a one-page resume, because all these Silicon Valley based companies, all these top tech MNCs, they don't have a lot of time. Okay, they can't read through 2-3 page resume. So one page resume, taking a glance at it can tell them that, hey, this guy is mostly proficient in C++, he has done a course on DSLGo, he has coded on LeetCode and things like those. So make it a one page resume with which talks a lot more about coding than other things. Okay. Cool. So how to get internship if companies don't come to college for internship? So there are many pathways actually. You know, these days I have seen that companies like Amazon have started doing mass pool hiring. Okay, mass pool hiring for interns also. So first thing is that you stay updated about that on LinkedIn. You will keep on getting updates for that, and also you can ask for referrals. So there are ways to get referrals. We ourselves have referred many of the candidates that we have trained for internship into Amazon, and they could easily crack it. And you know, getting internship and then getting a conversion is very, very easy, because in internships, the number of rounds are just 2 to 3 rounds. Okay. And also the difficulty level is considerably low. And once you get there into the company, you just have to sincerely work in your project, and then you get a pre-placement offer from there. Okay. Is there any good research opportunity for students selected in on-campus placements after BTech, or to opt for higher studies in foreign research? I think this is research is something which is totally different from these job-based opportunities. So if you are really interested in research, I would say that you can start working under a very good professor, either from India or from outside, and then try for publishing a research paper or something like that. Okay, and that does not have a lot of correlation with the job-based opportunities. Like Amazon or Google would never actually care a lot whether you have done a research project under someone or not. They would more be worried whether you can write correct code, or you are very proficient at DSLGo or not. Okay. So how to manage time for coding along with internship going? So time can always be taken out. So the thing is, it should never be like that every day I have to code for X hours. It is nothing like that. Even if, let's say, there was a busy day and you could not code, you should start with next day. So the thing is consistency over here. Even if you code for, let's say, 2 hours, 3 hours, but you code on a daily basis, by the end of 3 to 4 months, you would be a very, very good coder. Okay. So just don't miss out on that consistency part. Just ensure that every day you are spending some time coding some topics. And I would like to add one more thing over here. I have seen many students out there who are actually you know, a lot crazy after contests. So they'll give contests on Codeforces also, on LeetCode also, and across so many platforms. I'll tell you, learning doesn't happen through contest. Contest is just a place like a gym where you go and you kind of show off how much you have learned and all. So if you actually want to learn, you have to do it topic wise. You have to select which topic is weak, and for that particular topic you have to be spending a lot of time. Okay, so those of you who are crazily running after many contests over plethora of platforms, please don't do that. Okay, check out which topics are weak and sincerely dedicate time over there, and don't try to fool yourself. If you are not good at recursion, accept you are not good at recursion and be good at it before you move on to topics like trees or dynamic programming. There is no use showing off for better data structures or algorithms if your basics itself is weak. Okay, cool. So what projects are good for third year on campus? See, if you talk to me about project, I'll tell you again and again that for an entry-level graduates, these top tech companies don't worry a lot about project. But if you want to do a project, pick either a web-based project or some iOS-based project or Android-based project, and just know in and out of it. Okay, so in and out of a project means that what were the requirements, why the project is getting done, and what were the modules that you wrote, why you wrote, which technology you used. Just you should be able to talk about it for 10 to 15 minutes. If you are there, that means you have a good project. But more than the project, DS Algo is important. DS Algo and some fundamentals like OSDBMS. If that is not good, then project is of no use. Let me tell you that. What to study for system design for interns? If you are a fresher, system design is not of importance for you at all. Okay, but at all, if you think that, again, more than system design, object-oriented programming principles and low-level design would be of more importance. So spend your time learning more about things like inheritance, polymorphism, encapsulation, and how to maybe think of class designs for a system like MakeMyTrip, or for a system like Facebook. Spend time over there. But again, if you are not good at data structures and algorithms, all these things are useless. Okay. Certificates necessary in some courses in interview, not at all. Out of all the interviews that I have taken and seen, companies don't worry about certificates at all. When Programming Pathshala will conduct, so we'll be letting you know all the updates on our Facebook page. Just connect with us on Facebook page and we'll be there for you. I've heard that fintech companies also want to see performance engineering skills. Okay, so generally what happens, if the guy is an entry-level fresher, then they don't worry about it a lot. And the thing that you're talking about, performance engineering skills, they might be, again, performance can be evaluated. How well performing code you are trying to write, that can be checked even via, you know, a question based on data structures and algorithms, where they can check whether your code is actually optimized in terms of time and space complexity or not. Sometimes they may ask you some OS based questions based on threading and concurrency like that. But again, I would say that preparing for those is not a very heavy stuff, and that can be easily trained. We cover that, definitely we also covered that. But a precursor of that should be a very strong problem solving skill, because once you are there, those things are just, you know, cherry on the top of cake. Okay, I'm good in DS Algo but not getting any opportunities to be interviewed. So Saurabh, see, if you are good at DS Algo but you're not getting an opportunity, actually, you know, we can help with that. So we are actually, as I said, we would be rolling out few programs wherein we'll be training as well as we'll be referring to some companies. But the criteria to get into that program is that we need really strong and motivated candidates. So if you are good with DS Algo, and if you believe that your problem solving skills are good, then opportunity will be there in one way or the other, today or tomorrow. But the first and foremost thing of DS Algo and problem solving skills is very important. Okay, you can't just let go of that. Okay, cool. So basically, I think that was it. I think if there are more questions, you can write to us at info@programmingpathshala.com, and we'll be able to answer your all questions over there. And I hope we could impart what we wanted to impart to you. And now what we'll do is that I'll call Anup back, who will talk about a program that we are willing to roll out, which would be guaranteeing both training as well as placement. Okay, so he'll be talking about them, and you can ask your doubts to him. So thank you, everyone.
Hi everyone, hope you had a great time learning for last, like we have already extended the time limit. So, and there are so many questions still coming up. For now, what we can do is, I'll be, for the last 3-4 years, we have been doing this. And what I would say is that anybody who is very much skilled, I have not seen a single case, except few outliers with a very poor communication skills or something of that sort, who have not got placed. So if that be the scenario, a good idea is to start doing whatever we have talked about in this 1.5 hours. Second thing is that if you have any experiences to share of this webinar, or any questions to ask, for any questions you can write to info@programmingpathshala.com. For any experiences that you want to share, go to our Facebook page and share your experience over there. Coming on to the program that we are going to roll out, we are working on a program which will be rolled out in February. This program will be a 6-month-long program in which the kind of preparation plan that was shown on the board for your individual preparation that you can do with us. In that program, the trainers will be Vivek, and Bharat will also be there on the weekends. So the program will be mostly on the weekends so that it does not interfere with your ongoing schedule. So in this program, even if you do not have great companies visiting your campus, we'll be doing our bit to refer you to these companies. And that program will be online, yes. And people in Delhi NCR can come and join us offline over here. So this program will be rolling out in January 1st week, somewhere in January 1st week. For that, you'll need to follow us on February, and there will be emails reaching out to you. For sure, please keep on checking your emails from Programming Pathshala. And in this program, for these 6 months, the preparation plan that we discussed recently, that will be covered. And in the end, if you are a first year, second year, or third year student, we'll make sure that you get into either an internship or do a project under somebody, so that you'll be able to build your resume as well, or you'll be having your development skills sorted. And details about, somebody has asked how much amount. So there are different payment plans which we are working on. So these payment plans will be flexible so that everybody and anybody can join in. We want it to be more inclusive. We want that everybody without much of financial burden for now should be able to join it. And we also want that only committed people come into it. So there is a model that we are working on, and it will be finalized in the next week. So we'll be able to launch that after a week. And I really feel that these 6 months might be the most enriching experience for your learning, because the people who will be training, they'll be from great companies like Amazon, Tower Research, Google. So there will be 3-4 people who will be training you, mentoring you, hand-holding you. And the program will consist of data structure algorithms, OS, DBMS, and all those theoretical topics, as well as there will be a project in the end for all those who are in first year, second year, third year. So, and even working professionals, if you are here, there will also be a like weekend class. So you'll be able to cover with that. And yes, of the webinars, there will be webinar on the next Saturday as well. There will be webinars on every weekend, almost on every weekend or bi-weekly, as and when we are able to organize a great webinar. Yes, and there last thing that I would like to say is that be engaged, and there are many ways to be engaged with us. For any questions, of course, you can write to info@programmingpathshala.com. If you want us to invite in your campus, then write to us and we can organize a workshop in your campus as well. Third thing is, you can be a student partner with us. For that, if you'll go to our Facebook page, you will find a link for Campus Ambassador Program, and you can apply there and you can be a part of our team. Basically, engaging with us will make us, liable for your progress. So anybody and everybody who engages with us as a student partner, or in any capacity, we make sure that whatever we can do for them, we do that. And what is it to be campus ambassadors? So there is a campus ambassador program in which we are trying to create leaders in the campuses who will create small ecosystems even in the remote campuses, because we cannot reach everywhere. These small campuses will be served by these campus ambassadors who will be trained, who will be mentored with us, and these people will be able to create ecosystems in their own college with the student community and helping them learn what they need to learn. So in a later stage, it will not be limited to only coding, but also research and all the other things also. So yeah, so campus ambassador program is that you become our representative, our student partner, and take us to your campus. So basically being the wave front to spread the idea, to spread the learning processes. I think that is all. I would say that if anything and everything, whatever you feel like, you can write to us at info@programmingbachelor.com. And if there is anything you are struggling with, even if it is for the first time that you are interacting with us, please feel free to write, and we'll be happy to help you out. Okay, that is all. Have a great time. Have a great learning time. And we are there for anything that you require. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining.